Heucheras and Heucherellas have quite a good long life. They'll go on for a good many years, but sooner or later they tend to end up a bit like this one here. If you have a look, what's happened is the plant's got tall and it's sort of fallen over, and the middle of the plant is right over here now, and these growths, that I can pick them up and they're just laying on the surface. And the plant looks very untidy, and I think I can see possibly a little bit of Heuchera rust coming in here. I see spots on the leaves. I don't see any actual pustules. It may be that the dry weather has brought a bit of a halt to the rust. But the question is, what do you do with it when a Heuchera looks like this, gets all miserable? And what I would do, I'm going to do a bit of this now, is actually break off a piece of it. This one's beyond the point where you could dig it out and plant it deeper. It wouldn't respond well to that. You can see these long sort of branching pieces here. They break off fairly easily. And what you've got, if you look closely, pull them to pieces. Each of these is composed of a long, almost like a rhizome, but it's just a stem really. And on that, each one has a number of shoots like this. And these break away quite comfortably. So I've got 3. There's a rather sort of measly one. I'll put those aside. And here's another similar thing. First thing I always do is pull off all the rubbish. Anything that's dead or diseased, gone over, not looking good. And then you'll find, again, we've got these pieces here, like this. And there's quite a lot on here. And what we're going to do is use these as cuttings. They're not quite Irish cuttings because they have no roots, but they certainly have tissue which is predisposed towards rooting. When you look this up, I can't lift this up, I can't actually see any roots coming out from the nodes, but I think in time it would make some roots. Probably it's the leaf litters keeping them up high. Let's have another piece off here, look. So there's the horizontal stem that was lying on the ground, and here we've got all these shoots. Separate shoots. Don't ever bother with flowering stems, they're no use for propagation. So we've got a handful now, a double handful of pieces. Each piece has got some old leaves, a growing point, here's the growing point, and a basal piece here from which you clean up any dead leaves. And as I said, there's no actual roots there. If you look at it side on, no roots. But a good percentage of these pieces will root if we pot them up. And that's what we're going to do now. Slips, or whatever you want to call them. These are a variety of Heuchera called Marmalade, which is a very good, not so new now, it's been around a while, but it's a good variety. Well worth increasing for yourself. It is a variety that has breeder's rights to it. In other words, the person who bred it has, if you like, almost like a copyright. And you could not, without a license, propagate this plant to sell it for gain. But there's nothing to stop you propagating it for your own use and for replacing an old plant when it gets a bit tired. And that's what I'm doing now. So the first thing you do before potting any up is remove a lot of these old leaves, and you can remove a substantial amount of them. You could probably go down to that sort of amount. You might even want to take that one off as well. And the reason I'm being quite harsh is because I think there is some Heuchera rust in these. So there's that one. And so that's pretty harsh going to that level. Let's find another nice one. Here we go. So always take off any obvious dead stuff. And then if you do these one at a time, if you do too many, if you try and do more than one at a time, you're likely to tear this stem here. But if you do the one at a time, they come away really easily. And there we go. Look, that leaf looks quite clean, so I'll leave that one. So we'll take that one as a good example of the kind of thing you want to work with. Okay, so what we do is just pot them up. They don't need to go into big pots. I've got these little pots here. It's about a 2.5 inch shallow pot. Bit of fresh, free draining compost. This is a peat based mix that's got a little bit of John Innes in it, and John Innes is a soil based compost. They've blended the two together. There's good drainage in this particular brand of John Innes, so it makes for a nice compost for propagation. So there we have it. That's your pot with the compost in. Take your little piece of heuchera, and you can tuck it in like that. Make sure, obviously, that the crown, just here, is just sticking up above ground level. They can tolerate a bit of burying, but not too much. You really don't want to bury the actual main growing point. So you should be able to see that one. We've done that one. We'll do another. Let's take another piece. Here we go. Pull off the dead old stuff. Like that. Take off any old leaves, any that are diseased. I can't see any signs of rust on there. Just clean up the basal part. Take your pot, fill them up with compost. Just make a hole with a pencil, a stick, or your finger, and then firm that piece in. And that'll make a nice little plant. Now, this time of year, which is at the moment, this is June, it's quite warm, and so those should root pretty quickly. I would expect to feel confident that they're rooting in about 6 weeks, maybe less. And there's every chance they'll make a useful sized plant by the autumn. Let's say September. You should have a plant there that's good enough to use in an autumn container, and that's another good reason for increasing your heucheras, because they're very useful for autumn containers. You can never really have too many when the autumn comes. So what I'll do now is I'll just go and get a plant that one that I prepared earlier, just to show you the sort of result you can get.